The familiar scent of barbecue smoke and freshly grilled burgers filled the air as the Mitchell family gathered for their annual Labor Day cookout in Charlotte, North Carolina. Kids darted around the yard, laughter echoing as plastic plates piled high with potato salad and baked beans clattered against the folding tables. In one corner, uncles debated the latest college football game as if the championship depended on their verdict. Jason Mitchell, 38 years old, leaned casually against a towering oak tree at the edge of the yard. Despite the years, my family still saw me as the one who never quite made it. My younger sister, Emily, shone brightly in a cobalt blue dress, effortlessly charming our aunts with stories of her high-profile job interviews and trips abroad. Mom proudly announced that Emily had just completed her MBA at Harvard. She's interviewing with some top firms, Google, Microsoft, even Tesla. Mom boasted, her voice carrying over the hum of the backyard. I took a slow sip from my iced tea, bracing myself for the inevitable jab. And meanwhile, Mom added with a practiced sigh, "Someone's still doing whatever it is she does right, Jason." I offered a faint smile, undeterred. Across the lawn, Dad tended the smoker, his apron slightly stained and a cold beer in hand. Still fiddling with those data dashboards or whatever, he teased, his tone light but tinged with skepticism. I glanced at my phone, the next day's calendar, reminding me of the 10 a.m. final merger approval with Delta Metrics and the launch of our new executive suite. As the founder and CEO of Crestview Analytics, I'd be leading the charge. Something like that, I shrugged casually. At that moment, Emily clapped her hands excitedly. "Big news! I've got an interview tomorrow with Crestview Analytics. Can you believe it? They called me directly." Applause broke out, and Aunt Cheryl handed Emily a mimosa. I simply smiled inwardly. Emily would be seeing me again, just not in the way she imagined. "That's fantastic, Emily," I said, masking the satisfaction beneath calm words. "I just read an article about Crestview's founder, a brilliant woman, completely self-made." Uncle Dennis nodded in agreement. "Crestview's no joke. They only hire the best, very selective." Dad gave a grunt of approval as he turned a slab of brisket on the grill. I suppressed a smirk, picturing the HR folder open on my laptop back at home. Emily Mitchell listed among external candidates for the final interview round. She didn't realize the company she was hyping was mine. I had started Crestview Analytics 13 years ago in a cramped Charlotte apartment with a secondhand laptop and a borrowed coffee maker, while she had followed every conventional path laid before her. "What position are you interviewing for?" I asked, maintaining casual tone. Emily's eyes sparkled. "Senior strategy consultant, almost executive level. Can you imagine?" "Sounds promising," I replied, letting a subtle smile tug at my lips. She tilted her head, feigning kindness. "If I get the job, maybe I can put in a good word for you, Jason. I'm sure they have admin openings you could work your way into." Mom raised her glass approvingly. "That's sweet of you, honey. Lord knows your brother could use a nudge in the right direction." At 38, I was still figuring it out while Emily's confident assurance filled the yard. I thought about my penthouse office overlooking the Charlotte skyline, nestled atop Crestview Tower downtown, and the upcoming industry roundtable, where I would be speaking under my professional alias, J. Mitchell, a name recently featured in Forbes. They hadn't connected the dots yet. "That's generous of you," I said smoothly. "Good luck tomorrow." Emily grinned with theatrical pride. The CEO of Crestview Analytics is personally sitting in on the final interviews. Mitchell or something. Nobody really knows who she is. She tossed her hair. Well, whoever she is, she's going to love me. By this time tomorrow, I'll be part of their executive strategy team. Then, with a smug wink to Mom, maybe then you'll have something real to brag about. Mom dabbed at her eyes. Oh, sweetheart, we already do. At least one of our kids didn't lose their way. I glanced at my watch. 12 hours and 45 minutes until Emily would walk into the Crescent Room on the 27th floor and find me there, Jason Mitchell, founder and CEO of Crestview Analytics. 12 hours until the world she built on assumptions came crashing down. As twilight settled over the yard, the warm glow of lanterns flickered against the blooming azaleas. Emily rose gracefully from her chair, tapping her wine glass with a perfectly manicured nail. "I'll have to call it an early night," she announced, projecting her voice effortlessly. "Need to be sharp for tomorrow," she added with a theatrical smile. The CEO of Crestview Analytics is personally sitting in on the final interviews, she said, tossing her hair back confidently. Mitchell or something. Nobody really knows who she is. Well, whoever she is, she's going to love me, Emily declared. By this time tomorrow, I'll be part of their executive strategy team. Then, turning to Mom, she added with a smug wink, maybe then you'll have something real to brag about. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Oh, sweetheart, we already do. At least one of our kids didn't lose their way. I checked my watch discreetly just under 13 hours until Emily would enter the sleek conference room on the 27th floor and find me, Jason Mitchell, sitting at the head of the interview panel. 12 hours and some change until the very foundation of her carefully crafted world would crumble. I quietly gathered my things. Early client call, I murmured. Oh, your little remote hustle, Mom said, distracted. Don't forget to Venmo for your dad's birthday. Emily already paid most of it. I nodded, masking my excitement, and walked to my usual nondescript gray SUV parked by the driveway. My real car, a custom white Tesla Model S, remained tucked away in the downtown garage. As I pulled away, I smiled to myself. Tomorrow, Emily would finally realize what a real job looked like and why she'd never hold one at Crestview Analytics. By 6:30 a.m., I was already settled in my penthouse office overlooking the Chicago River. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the room with natural light, casting long shadows over the sleek glass desks and polished concrete floors. The soft hum of servers booting up and the distant murmur of early staff arriving echoed through the building like an orchestra tuning for a performance. I had built every inch of this empire myself, and today everything would come full circle. My charcoal gray Armani suit fit like armor, calm, confident, battle-ready. As I reviewed the morning agenda, my executive assistant Jenna knocked lightly and entered. Your sister's interview is at 900 sharp, she said, placing a glossy folder on my desk. She's already in the lobby. Got here half an hour early. Punctual, I murmured. Jenna smirked. She also posted on LinkedIn, manifesting my future as a Crestview exec. It's trending under women in leadership. Marketing flagged it earlier. I stifled a chuckle. Well, did she now? The folder looked polished: University of Chicago MBA, impressive internships, glowing recommendations. But I knew better. Those internships tied to our uncle's corporate network, references from family friends, a resume woven with borrowed threads. The board's curious why you're sitting in on this one, Jenna added. Quality assurance, I said. How many interviews before mine? 3. They're briefed, digging deep. At precisely 900, I positioned myself behind the one-way glass of the top-floor conference suite. Emily glided into the room, dressed in a tailored Chanel skirt suit and Louis Vuitton heels, her aura dripping with unearned confidence. She shook hands with her interviewers as if the job were already hers. For 2 hours, I watched her carefully constructed facade unravel. Every rehearsed answer dissected every polished title questioned. By the time she reached the final round, her posture sagged, and her voice carried a faint tremor of doubt. The radiant smile was now a tight line of uncertainty. "Send her in," I instructed Jenna. Emily stepped into my office, attempting to mask awe as her eyes scanned the panoramic Chicago skyline, the abstract oil painting behind my desk, the warm glow of polished mahogany and steel. She paused, taking it all in. I faced away from her toward the window. "Please have a seat, Ms. Tran," I said, my voice even and restrained. She lowered herself into the chair, cautiously folding her hands on her lap. "Thank you for your time, Ms. Mitchell," she began, politely unaware. I slowly turned, locking eyes with her. "Actually," I said, a subtle smile curling my lips, "it's Ms. Mitchell, Jason Mitchell." Her face drained of color as she glanced at the nameplate, the awards lining the shelves, and the framed Forbes cover emblazoned with Mitchell, the woman quietly revolutionizing data strategy. "You," she whispered. "Hello, Emily," I said calmly. "Surprised to find your aimless sister running the very company you hope to join." Emily blinked, lips parting in shock, the rehearsed lines and polished jokes nowhere to be found. "But that can't be," she stammered. "You're just some remote freelancer. That's what Mom always told me." "Is that so?" I gestured casually toward the accolades lining my office shelves. "While you were busy collecting degrees, I was securing contracts. While you flaunted job offers, I was building a global client base. Every time you called me a failure, I was negotiating with Fortune 500 companies." Her voice cracked under the weight of the truth. "You tricked us, you lied." I met her gaze with unwavering calm. "No, Emily, you all deceived yourselves. You were so focused on assuming I was a failure that no one bothered to ask what I was really building." I reached for my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen so she could see the recent transfer. "This," I said, "is my share of the family birthday money. 6 figures. For me, just a rounding error." Tears welled in her eyes, not the broken kind, but the hot mix of humiliation and fury. "So what now?" she snapped. "Are you going to tell everyone, make a spectacle?" I shook my head slowly. "I don't need to say a word. Your interview performance did that already." 3 senior partners had unanimously recommended against hiring her. "Too arrogant, too shallow, and completely unprepared," the feedback read. Emily's voice faltered again. "You set me up. I gave you exactly what you asked for," I replied quietly. "A chance to prove yourself. I just happened to be on the other side of the table." I stood, smoothing the front of my suit. "You should look elsewhere, Emily. Try building something real next time. Something not propped up by hashtags and Uncle Charles's endorsements." She rose unsteadily, the expensive heels that once seemed so commanding now clumsy on the polished floor. Her Chanel blazer hung like a mask, ill-fitting and exposed. "Do Mom and Dad know?" she asked weakly. "They will," I said, stepping toward the door. "I'm sure you'll tell them all about your interview with Jason Mitchell," I added, pressing the intercom. "Jenna, please escort Ms. Tran out and cancel my dinner with the family." Jenna nodded. "Yes, Mr. Mitchell." As the door clicked shut behind Emily, I heard her voice crack in the hallway, followed by a muffled sob. About an hour later, my phone buzzed nonstop with messages. The first was from Mom. What kind of cruel stunt was that? Emily is in tears. Then Dad texted, "How could you humiliate your sister? We didn't raise you to be vindictive." I stared at the screen, took a deep breath, and placed my phone face down on the desk. Finally, they knew who I really was. But what they never realized, what they never asked, was that I had stopped needing their approval long ago. I typed a single message in the family group chat. "You raised me to be successful. Congratulations, you did. Now maybe you'll recognize what real achievement looks like." Then I powered off my phone and turned my attention back to what truly mattered, running a billion-dollar analytics firm that was reshaping entire industries, all while they were too busy making jokes at my expense. Let them take their time adjusting. I wasn't slowing down for their comfort. Over the next few weeks, the change was palpable. When they called rarely, the conversations were stiff, full of forced politeness and awkward silences. The old jokes about my side hustle vanished, replaced by overdone compliments during Zoom birthday calls. Emily eventually landed a project coordinator role at a modest branding agency across town, not quite the executive seat she had imagined. No glass-walled office. No viral LinkedIn announcement. Just a job earned the traditional way without shortcuts. Mom and Dad quietly stopped hosting their Sunday dinners. Maybe they were embarrassed, or maybe they just didn't know how to exist in a world where the daughter they once dismissed now owned the skyline they used to point to with pity. But the moment that sealed everything came 3 months later. Forbes released their fall issue with a bold headline splashed across the cover. "The Silent Success: How One Woman Built a Billion-Dollar Company While Her Family Thought She Was Failing." There I was, front and center in full color. Sharp suit, the New Orleans skyline behind me. No aliases, no shadows, just Monica Tran Reeves, fully visible and unstoppable. I sent 10 copies express mailed to every single family member's home. No card, no message, just the magazine. Just the truth. The article detailed my journey from cramped freelance gigs in a small Baton Rouge apartment to leading one of America's most trusted AI firms. It laid bare the sacrifices, the strategies, and the quiet determination that had brought me here right under their noses. At the very end, the final line read, "Sometimes success doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just signs the checks." And for me, that was more than enough. I no longer craved their approval or permission to be proud. I had built something real, something lasting, something no one could diminish with a joke or dismiss with a shrug. Let them tell their version of the story now. Let them rewrite the past to make themselves seem supportive. Let them pretend they always believed in me. While they recalibrate their narrative, I'm leading Crestview Analytics into a new era. Finalizing our expansion into Europe, onboarding 2 enterprise-level contracts, and mentoring the next wave of underrepresented founders in tech. I'm doing what I love with a team I respect, building systems that truly matter. Success has already spoken quietly, clearly, and unapologetically. And I have no intention of turning down the volume. Now, if you've ever been overlooked by those who were supposed to believe in you, trust me, I see you. I know what it feels like to sit in a room full of family and feel invisible. To be the one they talk over, laugh at, and underestimate. I was called vague, emotional, impractical. Told I lacked direction while my sister collected awards and applause. Cast as the family wild card, harmless and forgettable. But I didn't argue. I didn't beg them to see me. I let the silence do the talking. And while they talked, I was busy building. Now they can't look away. This story isn't about revenge. It's about resilience. About redefining yourself on your own terms. About stepping into your own power even when no one is clapping. So if you've ever felt the need to downplay your wins, if you've built something beautiful in the dark just to avoid judgment, or if you're still pushing forward despite the doubt, drop a comment below and tell me your story. Tell me what you're working on, who counted you out, and what you did anyway. What keeps you strong when nobody's cheering? Not for validation, but for peace. And if this story made something inside you say, "That's me," hit that subscribe button. This isn't just a channel for underdog stories. It's a space for builders, dreamers, quiet giants, where we celebrate strength that doesn't need spotlights. Let them laugh, let them doubt. We'll keep building, because sometimes the best way to win is in silence, until your name is on the building. Before you go, how are you really doing? Did something good happen today? Or are you just holding on one moment at a time? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. This isn't just my story, it's ours. Let's celebrate your quiet victories. After Felicia's failed interview and the family finally seeing who I really am, things started to change slowly but surely. The awkwardness in family gatherings was undeniable. The once familiar jokes about my side hustle disappeared. Instead, conversations became polite, tentative, as if they were learning how to address someone they'd underestimated for years. Felicia eventually found a job, but not the executive role she dreamed of. She landed a position as a project coordinator at a local branding agency. No glass office, no viral LinkedIn announcement, just hard work and earned respect. My parents, sensing the shift, quietly stopped hosting their Sunday dinners. Maybe they were embarrassed. Maybe they didn't know how to exist in a world where the sister they once bragged about no longer overshadowed the one they dismissed. Months later, Forbes released their fall issue with a headline that made waves. The Silent Success: How One Woman Built a Billion-Dollar Company While Her Family Thought She Was Failing. The cover featured my full-color portrait standing confidently against the Baton Rouge skyline. No masks, no pseudonyms, just me, Monica Tran. I sent copies of that magazine to every family member's home. No cards, no messages, just the undeniable truth. The article detailed my journey from cramped freelance gigs in a rented apartment to leading one of the nation's most trusted AI firms. It exposed the sacrifices, the strategy, and the silent strength that fueled my rise. The closing line read, "Sometimes success doesn't need to shout, sometimes it just signs the checks." For me, that was enough. I no longer needed their approval or praise. I had built something lasting, something real, that couldn't be dismissed with jokes or shrugged off. Let them tell their stories now. Rewrite their version of history. Pretend they always believed in me. While they were busy crafting their narratives, I was leading Crestview Analytics into a new era. Expanding into Europe, onboarding major clients, and mentoring the next generation of underrepresented tech founders. Success speaks clearly, quietly, and without apology. And I have no plans to turn down the volume. Now, if you've ever been the one overlooked by the people who are supposed to believe in you, I want you to know, I see you. I know what it's like to sit in a crowded room filled with family and feel invisible. To be the one they talk over, the one they laugh at, the one they underestimate. They called me vague, emotional, impractical, told me I lacked direction while my sister racked up awards and applause. I was cast as the family's wild card, harmless, forgettable. But I didn't argue. I didn't beg them to see me. I let the silence do the talking. While they were busy whispering and joking, I was busy building. Building a life and career that would speak louder than any insult. Now they can't look away. This story isn't about revenge. It's about resilience. It's about redefining yourself on your own terms. It's about walking confidently into your own power, especially when no one is applauding. So if you've ever felt the need to downplay your wins, if you've ever created something beautiful in the shadows just to avoid judgment, or if you're still pushing forward despite doubt and disbelief, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Tell me who counted you out and how you proved them wrong. Tell me what gives you strength when no one is cheering. Not for validation, but for your own peace. And if this story made something inside you, stand up and say, "That's me." Hit that subscribe button. Because this channel isn't just for underdog stories. It's a space for builders, for dreamers, for quiet giants, where we celebrate strength that doesn't need spotlights. Let them doubt. Let them laugh. We'll keep building, because sometimes the best way to win is in silence until your name is on the building. Before you go, how are you really doing? Did something go right today? Or are you just holding the line one moment at a time? Drop it below. I read every single comment. This isn't just my story. It's ours. Let's celebrate the quiet victories together. In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere within my family shifted noticeably. Phone calls became less frequent, and when they came, the tone was cautious and polite, a stark contrast to the casual teasing they used before. The once familiar jokes about my side hustle disappeared, replaced by tentative compliments and awkward silences during family gatherings. Felicia, meanwhile, secured a job as a project coordinator at a small branding agency nearby. It wasn't the executive-level position she had dreamed about, but it was earned honestly without favors or shortcuts. Mom and Dad slowly stopped hosting their usual Sunday dinners, either embarrassed or unsure how to act in a world where their daughter, whom they had underestimated, now held real power. And then came the moment that sealed the new reality. 3 months later, Forbes published their fall issue with a striking cover story titled, "The Silent Success: How One Woman Built a Billion-Dollar Company While Her Family Thought She Was Failing." There I was, front and center, sharp suit, Baton Rouge skyline in the background. No aliases, no shadows, just Monica Tran in full unapologetic view. Copies of the magazine were express mailed to every family member's home. No note, no explanation, just the undeniable truth. The article detailed my journey from cramped freelance jobs in a small apartment to leading one of America's most innovative AI firms. It exposed the sacrifices I made, the strategies I crafted, and the silence I maintained while quietly building an empire right under their noses. At the end, the final line read, "Sometimes success doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just signs the checks." And for me, that was enough. I no longer sought their approval or validation. I had created something lasting and real, something no joke or dismissive shrug could ever diminish. They can tell their version of the story now, rewrite their memories, and convince themselves they always believed in me. But as I continue to lead Crestview Analytics into new markets and mentor future tech founders, I know that true success has already spoken quietly, clearly, and without apology, and I have no intention of turning down the volume. Now, if you've ever felt invisible among those who should have supported you, I see you. I understand what it's like to sit in a room full of family, feeling unheard, underestimated, or dismissed. I was labeled vague, emotional, or lacking direction, while my sister collected awards and praise. I was the wild card, harmless and forgettable. But I didn't argue. I didn't beg for recognition. I let my silence tell my story. While they talked, I built. And now they can't look away. This isn't a story about revenge. It's about resilience, about defining yourself on your own terms, about stepping into your power even when nobody is applauding. If you've ever downplayed your own wins, built something meaningful in the shadows to avoid judgment, or pushed forward despite doubt, I want to hear from you. Share your story in the comments below. Tell me who counted you out, what you're working on, and what keeps you going when no one's cheering. Not for validation, but for peace. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe. This channel is for the builders, the dreamers, the quiet giants. Where strength doesn't need the spotlight. Let them laugh, let them doubt. We keep building, because sometimes the best way to win is to do it silently until your name is written on the building. Before you go, tell me, how are you really doing? Did something good happen today, or are you just holding the line one moment at a time? Drop it below. I read every single comment. This isn't just my story. It's ours. Let's celebrate those quiet victories together.